and we're recording as we speak. And let me get back into the meetup here. Let's see here. I need to get to, somebody is wanting in. I need to let them in. Okay. Okay. So that being said, we'll move down. It's going to be pretty much just on Elementor 3.0. We've kind of introduced ourselves to each other. We're going to go over what's new, what ways to try to minimize the trauma, perhaps in some cases, of updating, some gotchas to look out for. And I'll kind of walk you through a little bit of how to use some of the new features, because it was not, Brian and I talked about this last week, it was not glaringly obvious to me what took precedence, the globals or the theme style, but we figured that out, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers. Try to keep them as much as possible to Elementor topics, because PHP question might not be the kind of thing that we would be able to answer for you. So, and then we'll just wrap it up real quick at the end. So I've already introduced myself. Brian, you want to say hey?
Unmute myself. Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending the Elementor Gwinnett County Meetup.
Yeah. And we already kind of took the time a little bit ahead of time to introduce ourselves, so we'll move on to the next thing. Elementor 3.0, how to get the most out of what's new. And this is the big release. Then they had 1.0 when they first came out, and then whenever they have the first number is new, that's all it means. It's a big release. And this is 3.0. Can't recall the exact date it was released, but it hasn't been that long. But we are already at 3.0.7. So there have been some, and this is for the general Elementor version, which they're now referring to as Core. So like they do in WordPress, there's WordPress Core, and now the free Elementor is going to be called Elementor Core, and then Elementor Pro is at 3.02. So both of those have been getting updates. Somebody needs to be muted. Let's see where that's coming from. I don't know where that's coming from. Okay. All righty. So this is something that Brian and I were talking about before we started. If you haven't already updated, let's do these things. Let's say I'm going to update to 3.0. If you're using any kind of add-ons for Elementor, like some of the ones we were talking about earlier, but some of the more common ones, Ultimate add-ons for Elementor, Happy add-ons, Essential add-ons, the Plus add-ons, Dynamic, any of those add-ons, even small ones like Mega Menu. There's little tiny plugins for Elementor. Make sure you go in to look at their changelog or their details that they're compatible with Elementor 3.0. And I'll explain why that's really important this time for this update in a minute. If you don't already, just kind of make a general practice of making a full backup whenever you update. Whenever I update plugins or themes or WordPress, I always do a full backup, because you never know when you might break your site. And then if you have the setup, if you have the hosting package that will allow it, or you have a local environment, test updates on a local or staging environment. And then one other item is when you're updating, update the free Elementor first before you update Elementor Pro, because Elementor Pro won't talk to the old version of Elementor. And I'm not sure what kind of cascading issues that could cause, but that's the recommendation, is to do the free part first, update that, then do Elementor Pro. Oops. So what's new that we're going to talk about this evening? Well, first is that was something that kind of referred to as code cleanup. They've changed how the code is rendered and generated in an effort to speed things up, make it more efficient. You know, there's been comparisons between Elementor and Beaver Builder and Divi and Brizzy about how clean or not clean the code is, and there have been complaints from some more advanced customers that the code for Elementor might be a bit bloated. So they've gone in and cleaned that up, and we'll talk about that. Mostly what we'll talk about and kind of walk through are the global styles and theme settings that are new and are really pretty cool. They will save you some time once you get used to them. They'll be more useful probably for sites going forward than because the sites you've already built may not be able to take full advantage of everything. But if you take the time to kind of retrofit them, it would. And then we'll talk about the theme builder. They've made some, more than anything, some probably more aesthetic changes, but there's some functionality that's different too. So we'll talk about all of these things. So for the code cleanup set part, as mentioned before, previous versions of Elementor added extra divs in the code. If you look in the code for the divs, or look the page source for your Elementor website, and you were to look, I did this. I copied a couple of these classes, and then did a page source on Elementor site, and see if this, I did it on Elementor Inner, just because it was the first one on the list, and sure as hell, it was there. After I was finished updating to 3.0, I did a search on it, it's gone. So if you had a plugin that somehow needed that div, that would break it. If you had written in your own custom CSS that depended on that class, it would break. So these are things to take into account. Like if you sometimes when we're trying to get this little thing CSS to do just right, we create a big long string of classes and IDs to get to it. Sometimes maybe we don't need to go that far, but be aware of that. So these three wrapper classes are gone in 3.0. There's an article about what the fancy name for what they've done is they call it optimizing the DOM. And to be honest with you, I have heard the word DOM before, but I didn't know. Let me find my area. Lost chat. Anyway, didn't really know what DOM stood for, but I looked it up. It stands for Document Object Model, and the document is the HTML part, and the objects are the HTML elements, and then the model is how the web browser takes it all in memory and renders it on the page. So this could be a difficult thing for some people, depending on their add-on plugins they have or how they do their CSS. But I can get to the chat. Where is chat? There we go. Let me put this. I've got so many windows open, I'm losing track of them. I think that'll do it. Okay. There's a link to that. It's an Elementor help document. So, okay. Now, one other thing about this, let me look at what I've got on the next. Okay. All this I've been talking about, if you update to 3.0, isn't going to happen. You know, it sounds like, well, I made this big scary deal about it. Well, if you update to 3.0, none of this is going to happen by itself. You have to make it happen. Because they, by default, don't, these changes they've done, they call them optimizing the DOM. By default, even if you're doing a brand new install, it's not enabled. So if you want to enable it, you have to go to the settings under Elementor and advanced, and move this out of the way. The Elementor settings advanced, and it's this right here. You click this, you can enable it, or you could disable it. Because that was confusing to me, because I got the impression that you did a new install and put in Elementor 3.0, or updated to 3.0, I should say, that it would be enabled, but that's not the case. It's you've got to turn it on, and so far I've only done it on half a dozen sites or so far, but so far no real issues. Be interesting to know how it works out for you guys. Now here's some visual cues as to how things are going to be different. The one on the left is what the panels look like in Elementor 2, and one on the right is what they look like in Elementor 3. Now this is in light mode. When I go in to show you sites that I've got set up, I work in dark mode, so it's going to be black instead of white. But they've taken what were the default colors, default fonts, and theme styles and put them into site settings. And then the dashboard settings and preferences have been moved up into the user preferences. And you'll see on the Elementor 3, they've got Theme Builder, where it says New. And this is accessible all from inside the Elementor editor. Remember, if you wanted to go to the Theme Builder before, you'd have to get out of Elementor, go into the dashboard, get to it, and then come back. You can access it now from inside Elementor, from the editor. So that's pretty cool. So, and then let's go back up. If you click on the hamburger menu in here, you'll get site settings, and you'll know you're there because it will be blue. And that's regardless of whether you're in light or dark mode. And what used to be default colors is now global colors, and what used to be default fonts is now global fonts. And then and here's where it is interesting. There was some confusion on my part. Well, I just wasn't sure, which ones take precedence. Well, the way that and I'll walk you through it with an example, but you can set the global colors and global fonts, and you can have a fair amount of control over this here. Then in the theme styles, you take the definitions you've made here to define these. Your typography, you can use colors for the buttons, typography and colors for form fields, and that sort of thing. So set these first, and then now if you go into, see we have disable the Elementor's default colors and default fonts. If you you can check that. If you check that, it's not going to affect the global colors or global fonts. But when you make these changes, it will tell you to disable. If you want this to work, you have to disable the default colors and default fonts. But we'll go through that. And then the remaining part of the site settings very much are things that were in, or they're in the customizer, and I'll show you that. So let's see here. Okay, so we're going to try this live at 5, or actually at 7:27. We're going to do this. I'm going to take this sort of brand styles type page that you might set up to put a whole bunch of different kinds of things in it and get them all set up. We're going to use this new setup. You can kind of tell the difference between, in this, when we're up here, if you're in light mode, there's actually a color difference, but in dark mode, there really isn't. The only thing you tell the difference really is the font. You know, they changed their logo. This is Elementor 3. This is Elementor 2. So we are, let's see here. I'm just looking for one more thing here. Okay, sorry. I was checking to make sure that we're recording. Okay, so we click on the hamburger menu. We can see the site settings here. So, and that's in version 2. Go on version 3, click on that, we go here, then we can go to site settings.
Gary, are you saving your screen? Are you sharing your screen?
Actually, I think I have dropped out of that. Let me go back. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Now can you see it? Okay, I'll backtrack. Okay, so I'm in the Elementor editor, and I click on the hamburger, and I go to site settings. Okay, so now we have global colors. Click on this. Now we have a whole lot of extra stuff that we can do with the colors, whereas in the old version, we went to default colors. But this is all we had. We had 4 colors we could work with, or we could use a palette. Now we can create our own colors. We can change the names. You know, if I wanted to change that to something else, I could. But I can make it any color that I want. Let's see. Let's make that let's keep it. Make it a bluish. And have the secondary color be maybe a little bit lighter. And text to make it, let's make it darker. Accent, let's see, make it bright blue. And we can change, let's say that I want to have this be my button color. And then I can, maybe I want it to be orange. And let's look at, make it more orange. And then maybe I want to change this one to button hover. And then, well, that's black, so I'm going to call that black. And this white. And if I wanted to add another color, I could. If I want to get rid of a color, I just hit the little trash can. Okay, I can update. Okay, now I can go back to this. Now we'll go to global fonts. I'm going to make my primary, which you could think of is maybe the H1s. I'm going to make, so it'll show up more, make it Montserrat, let's say 42. We'll make it kind of heavy. And make the line height 1.2. And let's see here. Letting somebody in 22. Okay. And the secondary, let's see, did I get that? Yep, we're good. Secondary, we'll go same font family. And I'm going to make it say 32. And go that way, 1.2. Okay. And the text, we'll make it 18. We'll leave it at Roboto. And we'll make it 18 and the weight of 400. And accent, make it 18 too. That being something like a link or something. We'll say that. So we've done the global fonts and global style. Now we can add more global fonts and global colors. We're not limited like we were before. So then we go into the theme styler. And this is when, now see, it says here, in order for the theme styles to take effect, you have to disable the colors for the fonts. So I'm going to go do that. And make sure I'm in the right site. Okay, I'm going to disable. So the changes. And then I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to reload this. The typography. And then for the body, I'm going to choose text. And for the text color, the typography, I'm going to use okay, here we go. We got that picked. Now these little globes, if you will, are the globals. So the typography, I can do it here. I can set it whatever I want if I want to make it manual. But if I go here and I click text, see it changed over here? And going forward, I can go back and change this global for text. And if I've applied this all throughout the site, it will change it everywhere on the site. And I'm not going to do with that. Links, I'm going to take a look and see what the links are. I'm going to pick that. They got darker. Typography is going to stay text. And then we go to H1. This appears in H1. We are going to make it that color. Typography, we're going to change it. Oh, there you go. And H2, we'll use secondary. That's probably too light. And then the typography, we go secondary. And see, then we can just continue on down and fill these out and update them. And that's how the global colors and fonts interact with the theme styles. Set these first, then apply them through here. Now you can be in just editing a page and decide to use a global, but whenever you change that global, you may come up with a global color that you are going to use. Let's say that you want to use a particular color for a background on a call to action. You could something that really catches someone's attention. You just something really garish. Well, you could have that in your global colors, and you could call on that like your palette at any time. So that's pretty cool. So those are the theme styles and the global colors and the theme styles. Now these settings here are used to be in the, we're used to seeing them on the customizer, but same kind of thing here, the name of your site logo, your site favicon, layout. We used to do this. This used to be in Elementor settings. You set your content with. I think I'd have to check. I think they've taken that out of the settings and you do it here. They've added a whole bunch. It used to be on the settings page, I believe it was, or maybe in the advanced. There was just one little thing to check. Yes, I want pictures. If you click on a picture, you can have a light box. That's all it was. Now, got all these settings that you can do for light boxes. And that's kind of cool. You can do your custom CSS, whereas you could, but just like you used to do in the customizer, or still can do in the customizer, but this would supersede it. And it's all without having to leave the Elementor editor. It's all right here. And then this takes you back to the settings page for Elementor itself. So that's all. I think once we get used to it, I think that will be very helpful in building out sites. Anybody have any questions on this part? Okay. We go down. Now there's the theme builder. Now, how do you get to the theme builder? That was a little bit opaque to me because it used to be, and it still is. Let me get out of this. Okay. In version 2, the theme builder is under templates, theme builder. So you'd have to get out of Elementor and go to, oh, I got a lot of spinning going on here, don't I? Let me stop that. Okay, so we go templates, theme builder. This is what we got. We have the header, footer, so on and so forth. But in this, we have templates, and we still have the theme builder. And I thought, well, that's not terribly helpful. And you can still get it that way, but that's not how we do it. Let's go back to where we were. And let's see, I was editing this, I think. Okay, and we'll go to there, where the hamburger means. There's where the theme builder is. And So we click on that, and it has a different looking interface. Now this is what it looks like in dark mode. This is what it looks like in light mode. And I've got these little things highlighted in yellow to make sure I point them out to you. This would be as if you click on this if you were going to add a header template. This would be if you were wanting to import a template from your library, or drag and drop a JSON file or a zip file. You can take a template from one website and export it as a JSON file, and then import it into your Elementor templates. And then whenever you add something from the library, that's kind of the same thing. And then you can get out of it by just clicking here. But this is where I think there's still a bug. Let's see, where did I put that one? This is on a live site. It's built with Elementor. It was built a while ago with Elementor and has been gone through the regular updates. But this is with 3.0, and I've run into this on every Elementor site that I've had. Is what's supposed to happen is what you see here. It's rendering the sort of a graphical version of the footer. You can see if you can see, although interestingly enough, that's not the footer. That's the header. Well, that looks like a bug to me, because that is actually the header. Okay, interesting. And then it's just not rendering the blog archive or the single post template. And I run into that on other sites. But you still can, see if we get the right preview here. So this is a preview of the header. And if you want to, one of the cool things about this, when it is working, is it gives you in one look the instances of where this is without having to go back and take a look. You can edit the conditions of where it shows up right from here. If you wanted to add another condition, like instead of it just being the entire site, be the entire site except for a particular page, you can edit the template for here, and there's further options over here. I can export it, trash it, or rename it. These little ellipses can get lost sometimes, and sometimes they're hard to notice. So then we go back to the main. Now, if you have, and these are going to be your global parts. That these won't be all your templates, because you could have 50 templates, but they won't show up here. They would show up in your templates. These are for your theme. These are like if you had you built a WordPress theme. Now this is like your header PHP file. This is like your footer PHP file, and this is like your single.php, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of you're building your theme through this. So that's pretty cool when it's finished, but I'd be interested to know if any of y'all have played around with this and have run into the same thing, because I've run into it on every site that I have. Let's see here, let's go back down. I showed you this about how you can show the instances and editing and all that kind of good stuff. So I think that is all I have for Elementor 3.0. So
Reese had a question in the chat, Kerry.
Okay. Why would you opt to open Theme Builder from inside the page editor versus directly from the WP dashboard? Well, because you wouldn't have to get out of the editor. You would, if you're editing something and you want to get to it rather than having to get out of it. Now, maybe you wouldn't need to be in the editor, but being able to access something without having to get out of the editor, I think sometimes can be helpful. Like when they added the feature. We don't have a header on this one. The feature. Let me go back here. Close this. Like this is the home page. When they added this feature here, I don't have to get out of.
You need to share it.
No, I think you need to.
We're not saying it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'm sharing the right thing. Okay. This, when they introduced this feature a while ago, you can actually, and this is the home page, but this is the header. I can actually do this to get to the header and edit it. And then if I want to get back to the page or the post, I can just go here. But I think there might be some instances where you would want to be able to get to the theme builder while you're still in an editor. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just thought it was cool and said it. So, see, Sue had a color question.
Yeah, a quick question. I was working on a site today that I just updated, and I saw the little global thing. So I clicked on it, and it brought up colors that I've used on this site, but I didn't think I'd save them as global colors, but it was a pretty nifty shortcut because there's maybe 5 or 6 colors I've been using throughout, and suddenly they popped up, and it was like, wow, that's really nice. That's new.
Yeah, they migrate over. Like if you have, depending on, like I used to use, or up until this had used a custom color palette plugin that I would set up ahead of time, to where I would get my color palette set up and it would show up in the Elementor and the regular editor as pre-chosen colors so that I could always have them. Well, when I went to 3.0, those colors were sort of migrated into those colors to choose them, although they had very generic names like color number 7 and color number 8. So, whereas I had originally maybe named them, you know, let's say that it was, maybe it was called McKinsey Blue Law, McKinsey Law Blue, McKinsey Law Red. They just said color, you know, color number 3. So yeah, it migrates over. When we were walking through the global colors, you recall there were these 4 here had names like that, like color number such and such, and they were actually the colors that we go back to the old in Elementor 2.0. These colors were migrated into here before I changed them with very generic names. So whatever colors may have been set previously, you don't lose. You still have access to them. But you have to give them their appropriate names again, I think. So I think that's what you saw. So,
Harry, are there still palette selections like there were in the previous version or no?
not as far as I'm aware. Now, if somebody can clear me straight on that, but I'm not aware. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anybody talk about it. So, but I guess the idea is that, that you would be setting your own color palette. And of course, there's tons of resources outside on the internet about putting together color palettes.
Can I help
depending
in?
on if you're the,
Can I help
sorry?
in? Can I jump in for a
Sure.
second? Oh,
You
thank you.
bet.
Hello, everybody. My name is Oscar, and now I'm down from Miami at this moment. Regarding what you're saying, it is something interesting that I want to point out. Those global
Okay.
colors that you see right now on the shared screen, let's say you want to, on a page, you go and you don't click the global color, but you select the same color that is in the global colors. See, let's say you want this orange ED4918, but you go and do not select it from the global, yeah, right. Let's say you want to use that one, but you don't select it from the global palette, but you select it by entering the number directly. So the global color,
you can do that.
icon does not light up. What is going to happen is that if you ever change that orange in the global colors, every place where that global color is being used will be updated to the new color you updated to.
Right.
But
Wherever you have a global color,
that is not on the global colors will not update.
I think what you're saying,
Color.
I think what you're saying is if I were to add, let's see, I add this heading, and it's an H2, so it already has a color set. But let's say I want to change the style, because right now it's set at that by default. I can.
Now, follow me. Click on a style, click right there, and select the same color, whatever color you want.
Yeah, you can change the color and don't have to use the global, and it will change.
Right. But if you use the global,
But if I change,
if you use the global and you ever change in the global, it's going to change over here also.
no, because global, it's not using the global; it's using the custom.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll show you.
Do choose the globe and change it there. You're going to be now changing it throughout the whole entire site.
No, we'll say right now the global can't be changed from here.
Oh,
You can only pick them. See, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's say I have taken this H2 and the secondary, and I've made it this red. So I'm going to update. But I'm going to change the global colors secondary. I'm going to change it to green. You see, it didn't change. It changed here, but it didn't change here because I overrode the global. I said, I don't want to use global. I want to make it my own. So if we go back and I pick that, see, it's still red. But the global now is green. So if I decide that I want to make the color change here, it's going to stay there that way until I change it. If I try to use the globals, whenever I make the change to the global, it'll do it everywhere that I've applied the global color.
Harry, my point is that if you click on the solid red as the icon that you have right here, and now type the 6 63B364.
Six
63B364.
three.
B364. That is the same
Okay.
green that is on the global palette.
Okay.
It's the same color, right? Now, if you go to the global colors and change that green for another color, the heading that you just inserted will not change despite of being exactly the same color code because it is not a global
Right.
color.
Right. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Yep.
attached to color. It's attached to
global.
the global secondary setting. So yeah, you may
Right.
make some
Right.
manual
Because whenever
changes.
you,
Yeah. But of
whenever
course, it
you,
won't change until you actually attach it to the global secondary in this case. So yeah.
right. Because we've decided that we want to pick our own color. Now I can clear it, and it'll go back to the global for that we changed before, because that's an H2. That's the new thing. I don't know if y'all realize. I don't remember if I had seen that there before, but you can clear your color by clicking on that. So that's pretty cool.
I have a quick question.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
You had mentioned before that if you wanted to use I think they're called the theme editor settings for fonts and colors or fonts, they H1, H2, H3, H4, all that. You have to go into settings and disable the default colors and fonts first. What happens if you don't?
Doesn't work.
And so can somebody explain what does Elementor mean by default colors? Like what is default versus global? I would think global would be the defaults, but maybe defaults are just Elementor's default colors that are built in. So they're
I think that the closest way to explain it, the default is kind of not really used that much in the actual builder now. Let's see. But I think what they're talking about here is default colors, because you can still set, in many themes, you can set default colors. And so this disables, because the way that WordPress kind of thinks is it flows down. Styles and colors and fonts can flow down from the theme to the plugin to the widget,
Gotcha.
and so forth. So this is disabling. When it says default, I believe it's disabling any colors that were set by the theme, so that Elementor can take over full control.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so. It seems to me like it should be the other way around. Like you should have to enable them. They should be disabled by default, but that's because I'm only used to working within the Elementor universe. I'm not used to using anything but Hello, really. I've used a few others.
Yeah, right. Yeah, used to be. It depended on how you worked.
Yeah.
And what people use Elementor in different ways. And when I first started using Elementor, I was using a theme that was kind of meant for page builders. And I still use it, the Astra theme, but there are others. Generate, Press makes one, WP Ocean, and of course Hello theme, which is the Elementor theme itself, which is the whole point being is they're stripped down compared to regular bulky themes. I've used Astra because it has some little extra, but you got to get the Astra Pro part. some extra little things to it that I like that I can add on to a website, like let's see, since we're talking about it, I like to use where did it go? I can't find it. Scroll to top. I like to use that because I hate having to. Let's see here. Show you what I'm talking about. When you get to a page, I like to be able to scroll to the top. So it's got that little widget built into it. It's got some custom. You can add custom layouts. Like if you need to add some code before the header. Like I've had a number of instances during this COVID thing where people want to have a banner at the top, but they don't. It's not going to be part of the header. It needs to actually be. It's added with a hook. If you're familiar with that in WordPress, but you don't need to know code because Astro will allow you to put hooks in and make it go above. Or actually, the real web page is actually sitting on top, but still shows. Or you could put it. There's all different kinds of ways. That's just my own personal preference, but I think I haven't tried using the Hello theme. I'm sure it would make sense to me that it's probably in time. Well, if it's not already, probably in time be the best choice. And I'm wondering if it might be part of a plan that Elementor is going to try to get to a place to where you don't really need a theme at all. I don't know how that would work, because it seems like for WordPress to work, you have to have a theme. But that was one of the reasons that I started really getting on board big time a couple of years ago with Elementor. I guess it's been longer than that, but was when they started coming out with this idea that you could build theme parts. And even in the very beginning, the idea that you could create a header, and you can create multiple headers, and you could set different conditions to where that you could say, this is going to be the site header, but on this particular page or on these kinds of pages, the header is going to be a little bit different. Or if there are other plugins, Elementor plugins you can add on. You can say, if you're a particular user, you'll see a particular header. If you're, and there's all kinds of things you can do. It's just almost unlimited.
I wonder if we're sort of seeing that here, them folding in because those are the settings you would turn on to tell Elementor not to pay attention to the colors you've set, but to go to the theme. But now you still turning those off, and it's taking you to the theme colors that Elementor is plugging in itself. We may be seeing the beginning of not needing a theme.
So we're talking about the disabling the
using
theme
the same channels that the theme colors would come in. So
I don't know why they did it that way. I saw a video, a guy kind of walking through the same kind of thing, and he felt that language was confusing about the Elementor. Where the heck am I here? This language that they have.
It is a bit confusing, but the way I keep it straight is before the new theme builder, before you plugged in your global colors, you left that unchecked if you wanted to set your colors in your theme, and you didn't want to do that inside the Elementor palette.
Right.
And you checked it. I'm sorry, you checked it if you wanted to use your theme colors. Now Elementor is kind of taken over that functionality from your theme. So you still want to leave it checked and think of the global colors in Elementor as kind of a theme, because in my mind, they really have taken over the purview of themes. You only need
I think the idea.
You only need an actual theme like hello, because WordPress requires you to have a functions file and a style file. And those are very bare minimum. With hello, they just basically call in the elements that you basically have to have. So you don't have a completely blank slate, but it's very bare bones. And with that being said, you can set just about everything you need to set inside Elementor. So you don't have to go out and do your colors and your logo and your site settings and your custom CSS and all that in a theme, and then come back to Elementor to do your layouts. You just basically do it all together. And between templates and headers and footers and 404 pages and all that sort of stuff, I'm not sure what you can't do with Elementor. I haven't run up on anything yet, except some custom functionality, of course.
Right, and more, there are people that are doing some pretty amazing things with dynamically, like the plus add-ons. Elementor has some dynamic functionality as it is. Like you could, when you're building a page, you can tell it to dynamically populate this field, this text field with the page title. You know, you can already do that in basic Elementor, but there's the plus add-ons have some interesting dynamic features that you could hide or show something depending on the user role, and those kinds of things. There's also dynamic content for Elementor, which gets really out there with how you can control things dynamically. The Jet plugins, Jet engine plugins from Crockablock has a lot of those kinds of things. In fact, I think the Atlanta Elementor Meetup is going to do, that's their topic towards the end of the month. They just announced their topic. It's Elementor and Jet engine, I think, for dynamic listing something or other. So you can do a lot of stuff. Did you have anything to add, Brian? Any questions, comments?
Sorry, had trouble getting mute off. No, I think there was a question in the chat though. It's regarding plugins. Courtney, I can send you a link regarding those. I can send you a link.
About other
other key
plugins for Elementor. Well, it really depends on what you're trying to do. You know, there are some, like there's a good plugin called Elementor Skin or something like that. Let me share. And it's kind of interesting.
Skin.
Say that again, Diana.
Ellie Custom Skin, ELE.
Yeah,
Skin.
yeah, I think they're right. Yeah, that basically what you can do is create your own custom loop. Thinking it right, you know, have you ever had a you know, like a blog archive page or any kind of post archive page, and you want to customize it and make it completely special or different. You can do a lot of that with some Elementor plugins or Elementor, but maybe you want to leave out 3/4 of what is built into it and kind of restyle it. Or what you do is you build a template kind of like you do in a section, and that is saved as a loop, and it's populated by the content of the post, it's a post or the custom post type. That's pretty cool. Anybody else have any favorite Elementor plugins, add-ons that they use?
There's some that I use not for Elementor, but I use on every website, which is Updraft Plus for backups, WordFence for security, one-click accessibility for ADA compliance, and those are kind of a must on every single website.
What a lot of people do is have what they call a technology stack, or it's not really technology, the grittiest term, but a stack. You noticed probably on all these pages, they're all called starter site. With my host, I use WP Engine as my host. So I have a bunch of installations, and I have one install that's just called WP Starter Site, and I just have all the plugins and themes and everything that I'm pretty sure that I'm almost always going to have. It's kind of just the basic setup, and then when it's time for me to start a new site, I just copy that install over to a new install and start from there without having to go in and download and upload plugins and do all this kind of stuff. And so everybody has their favorite things. Like I have one that I like. It's called Code Snippets. I don't have to go in, and if I have to add custom functions, I don't have to go in and actually edit the functions PHP file in the child theme. I can add them in this Code Snippet plugin, and it'll just add them on, and if there's a child theme or not. Because every time the theme updates, it would get, if I put it in the theme, which you never want to do, every time you update the theme, it override it. So if you had it in a child theme, sometimes the child themes get updated too when themes get major updates. You don't have to worry about any of that. Just of course, now with Elementor, you don't have to worry about even that. I got rid of one plugin because of this latest version of Elementor, which was a simple color palette plugin that I can set a palette for the site. Don't need it anymore, because as was Sue pointed out, like she experienced when I opened up, the first thing I opened up in Elementor 3.0, those colors from my little custom palette plugin were already there. It pulled them in, so I don't need that plugin anymore. And there's probably other plugins that will not be needed because of Elementor 3.0.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to send, I'm placing on the chat the plugins that I use. See, basically for all websites, they're on the chat right now. If that may help someone.
And it all kind of depends on your host too. The host I use, I don't really have to worry about backup plugins because they do backups every day, complete backups, and I can make backups on demand. And they have their own pretty sophisticated security. And I also use GoWP. Y'all familiar with GoWP?
For what?
It's a service for keeping your plugins updated.
Oh yeah.
Because it's actually a company out of Alpharetta. Brad Morrison owns it. Back in the day when we had WordCamps in person, you could see he was very active in one of the organizers for WordCamp Atlanta, and I use them. What they do is I give them access to my websites, and they have some code software that goes in and checks every day for plugins that need to be updated. And it takes a series of screenshots and stuff around the site, and of pages, whole page screenshots, and then updates the plugin, then takes those shots again. Then it has an artificial intelligence compare them and see if there's any major problems, and if it is, it rolls back the update. And then I can tell them, in their little maintenance plugin that they install when they take over, I can tell them, don't touch these plugins. I want to do these myself. And 2 weeks ago, I told them I set Elementor and Elementor Pro do not update. I didn't want them updating it until I'd had a chance to see what was going to happen. So it saves me some time because I manage about 50 websites, and keep track of the plugins being updated on 50 websites by one person is kind of hard. So I let Brad and his guys do it, and if there's a problem, they tell me. They roll it back and they send me an email and say, hey, there's, when this plugin updated, it went into an infinite loop, and you need to contact the developer. And so they'll put a problem plugin. They'll sort of put it on a hold and won't do anything with it for a while until I go in and take a look at it. So, but there's all different ways of doing it. WordFence, yep. Updraft Plus. Rank Math. How do you like Rank Math?
I love it.
Yep.
It's a lot lighter.
Well, I've heard a lot of good things about Rank Math. I still have to deal with Yoast because a lot of my clients, I build websites for a marketing company, and all their staff know how to use Yoast. So I kind of stuck with like 20 sites that are with Yoast. But I'm hearing good things about Rank Math.
I like it. I like it a lot. It includes AMP, so you have one less plugin to install. It integrates directly into Elementor because optimizing with Yoast, you have to be jumping in and out of the editor to be able to make the changes. When you have this installed, let me pull out a website that is using it, and I'll show you the way the way to use it, because on the same tabs where you see the I think it's global elements, there's an additional tab which is SEO, and it goes directly.
Right.
Goes directly that, so it integrates directly with the editor, so you don't have to be jumping in and out.
Right. Yep, I've seen it demoed. But
let me pull this website. there's another plugin that I use. I forgot to list it. That I like it I'm a freak of security. And the name of it is, I'm sorry. Bear with me. I'll find it. It's one to change the name of the login page. Because the standard WP-admin is the first things hackers are going to look for. So if you change that name, they're going to have to start finding it to be able to start using logins. Usernames. And then when they find the username, they're going to have to start using passwords. See, so the
for the more technically inclined of us, hopefully there's somebody technically inclined. You can do that in the WP config file, can't you?
Yes, you could.
Yeah.
Yes,
of course, that's a lot more work because then you got to FTP into your site and do all that. But that's a good idea. You're right. It's like
I'm just too lazy to go to that, because it's just install it and that's it. You don't need anything else. But I'm logging into the website that I want to show you. See, I not only do that, I have two-factor authentication, so it's
okay.
I have 100 websites and not one single has been hacked ever.
Yeah. Sharice, on your, I'm not sure if this is a question or a statement. It says, do you use the new feature automatic updates within? No. Do I use that? Is that what you're asking?
It should have said do. It was a typo.
Yeah. No. No. Big no. I think it's like when I saw that was a feature. Do y'all all know what she's talking about? In WordPress 5.5?
Yes.
That you can be allowed to have it be that whenever a plugin it comes up update comes out, it just automatically updates. I just finished building a website 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. Well, 5.5 had been out, so whenever that was. There's a plugin, believe it or not, there's already a plugin. Well, there was a plugin, and 5.5 had only been out like 10 days. There was a plugin to disable that feature in 5.5. And, a week out of 5.5 being out, there were already 10,000 installs of that plugin. So I think that can kind of tell WordPress that maybe some users don't think that's a good idea, because that would give me nightmares knowing that all day long plugins are being updated and I don't know what's happening. There's nobody watching the store. So I install that on. I install it on sites that I don't have the full control over. This particular site. Sorry?
May I share the screen to show you that?
Let's see.
I'm allowed. I just not. It's not if I can. It's
give it a try. Give it a try.
Okay, this is the way that the pages are going to look when you install Rank Math, which is different from the Elementor one. The Yoast that is going to insert in different columns. This kind of inserts it in lines between the pages. And let me go for, let's go for the home page of this website. And when it loads, we're going to see right up here, see the elements, see the global, and there is an SEO tab coming from Rank Math directly. So whatever you change over here, you're going to see it right here. See? So you don't have to leave that's one of the advantages of rank math. You don't need
Right.
to jump in and out of the editor to be able to make changes.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
That's
heard
what
a lot of good things, and well, I appreciate you sharing that.
Okay,
Anybody
no,
else using rank math? I've been meaning to give it a try on our new website. I haven't yet. I guess such a creature of habit.
By the way, this website, I just switched yesterday from Yoast to Rank Math. And I'm in the process of starting to do that on several websites. And a recommendation, if you ever go that way, is deactivate Yoast, install Rank Math, and activate it.
Gotcha.
That order. Don't have both. Don't install both. Don't activate both, and then deactivate Yoast, because you end up with a double canonical line, which.
But can't rank math, even though Yoast is disabled, can't it pull some of the
It will import
the snippets? Yeah. It'll import the meta tag, meta descriptions, and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, it does import that from Yoast.
Okay, cool. All righty. Well, we're about a couple minutes before time we have to stop. Does anybody have anything they need to ask or want to say? Look through here. I agree with you, Sue. Gravity Forms is must use. You wouldn't believe what you can do. I'm using Gravity Forms in conjunction with Advanced Custom Fields and Gravity Forms plugin to have somebody fill out a form, an application on a page. That's a very lengthy. It's a 7-step form. Of course, Gravity Forms, you can do step forms like Elementor. 7-step form. You can fill it out, and it's linked in. All those fields are linked in with Advanced Custom Fields, and it builds a page on the fly, and it builds a profile page for a participant in this program that this website runs. And Gravity Forms is really great.
There's a future Meetup demo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a lot of work. There were 80 fields in these forms.
Oh my! Was there conditional logic?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My goodness!
You know,
Wow.
it was for programs for young girls. It was a Christian program to where that they're mentoring young girls and to going into college and stuff. And they would ask. There's 3 different programs. They're like middle school, junior, and senior high school. And if they were middle school, then a whole nother bunch of fields would open up. And if they were seniors, different fields would open up. So yeah, that's all. It's got all the bells and whistles on it. So, all righty, we're about at 8:30, which is the timeout. Which you have to.
Yeah,
say something, Oscar.
I have to jump into another meeting with. We're going to be talking about accessibility. So.
Okay, Oscar. Thank you for sharing your stuff.
Thank you very much
and
for
everybody.
sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate everybody coming.
Mark, great
Good to see y'all again.
About 3rd time, 4th time into the round.
Great.
Good to see you.
It's great. I'll see you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Guys,
Bye-bye.